The Hollow World is a fascinating place with cultures ranging in technology from the Stone Age to the Cyberpunk Age and everybody in between. Unfortunately, all of them are stuck at that level because the Hollow World enforces cultural stasis. This is fine if you are the technologically advanced merry pirates or the Blacklore Elves, but it's a bit of a bummer for everybody else ported here when their primitive cultures were about to be wiped and Ka decided to save them, and then keeps them in the Stone Age at the time of their immediate annihilation. Fun stuff. So who are the people stuck looking longingly at their Bronze Age neighbors? Welcome to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to walk the dinosaur. The problem all these cultures are going to have is not just that they are stuck in the Neolithic Age, but they can't progress out of it with any ease. Nobody's allowed to walk over to the Millennium Empire and ask to borrow the method for casting bronze. They have to come up with it on their own. They can't have any help from the outside. They view themselves as superior to the other cultures, even when that culture has mastered the secrets of gunpowder, powered flight, or agriculture. Eventually they might come up with these ideas on their own that will lead them into a new age, but that's not going to come easily or quickly. The first one up that I've already covered is the Malfei Lizard Men. They were saved from extinction as they were being hunted by the Nithians and plagued with a virulent disease. Ka stepped in, put the majority of them in the Hollow World, and here we are. That's where they sit in their swamps hunting, gathering, and serving as mercenaries for their neighbors. They lack basic concepts such as cities, but at least the disease is gone. They are the least changed from their surface cousins, as lizard men aren't exactly known for their scientific curiosity. They do have a lasting hatred of Nithians, despite no one alive ever seeing a Nithian among their numbers. They just have oral descriptions of them. Other than that, they're neutral in all conflicts and are happy to serve on both sides. The Neoar Tribes aren't an actual people, instead as a description for several primitive tribes scattered throughout the Hollow World. They tend to be tanned with blonde or brown hair and travel in family units. Their physical description is the only thing that groups them as a people, as every tribe is typically run in its own manner. They have no agriculture, they wear leather garments, and follow the herds of various game animals. They don't have a specific culture. Some tribes are run by a king, others by a council of elders, and others decide their laws with a contest of champions. Just because you're friendly with one tribe doesn't mean the next one that meets you owes you jack. Every tribe is treated as a different culture. The name is just a method others use to refer to the group as a whole. The Brutemen is the Hollow World name for the Neanderthals that populate the region. Unlike the last two races, these guys have a decent amount of history despite being by far the most primitive race in all of the Hollow World. They were the first attempt at humans by the Immortals, and Kagiar himself was one of their numbers before ascending. He's still their patron, and was the one that saved the last survivors when it became obvious they were going to be wiped out by more advanced races. Brutemen still know that he's one of them, even if they can't grasp the true nature of the Immortals. They're trapped in their past like all Hollow World cultures, but everybody else has at least some understanding on how fire works. Brutemen hunt with stone spears, gather food to supplement their diet, but have no domesticated animals, written language, or concept of metallurgy. This being the Hollow World, even if you gifted one an aluminum baseball bat, they would refuse to use it. They're divided between the followers of Kagiar and the followers of Thanatos, with most Brutemen following their patron immortal. While they're primitive, they can pass for humans if they dress in actual clothing, though they're not going to be winning any beauty contests. Thanatos tried to corrupt them with the Burrowers years ago, resulting in a split between tribes that has not seen peace in thousands of years. Genites are a weird entry in the Hollow World, as their technology is all over the place, and on the surface they seem to be thriving, except for the ones conquered by Alphatia. It's going to be one hilarious reunion if the Wizarding Empire makes its way to the Hollow World. I'm not saying the Alphatians are going to be immediately hostile to the Genites. After all, Empress Ariadna loves Genites. She owns 100,000 of them. The race was torn by a religious war between the followers of Rathanos, who believed in the strict separation of the genders, with men on top. Terastia wasn't having any of that, caused a bunch of her followers to break away and change society. The resulting civil war ended up with Terastia transporting her followers to the Hollow World, because the war went rather poorly for them. This is where we get continuity issues, as the surface Genites are said to be in the Stone Age, and the Alphatian conquest hasn't helped with that. The Hollow World Genites are stated to be in the early Iron Age, meaning they are the only culture transported to the Land of the Red Sun to actually outprogress their surface cousins. They're an equestrian society. Makes sense, as they are our version of the Scythians. They are known for holding grudges, goldsmithing, and their warlike ways. They have calmed down a bit, not because of them making friends, but because tougher opponents have arrived next to them in the form of Nithians. They still like to raid, attack, and rack up votes for Worst Neighbor of the Year, but now they have to budget themselves because people can now fight back. And how do you justify the tech level disparity between the surface and the Hollow World? Not easily. Blame the Alphatians. Somehow. Just say a wizard did it. To the north of the Genites is the Tanagoro Plains. the ancestors to the Yav people before all the elf love started. This society has several scattered tribes living across the area, with villages a common sight. Also dinosaurs, which explains why every village comes with its own earthen wall. They're a Bronze Age people and have mastered the farming of grain for their food source. They also hunt wild aurochs, but haven't domesticated them yet. If they can bring down a dinosaur, the tribe eats well for days. Unlike the Neoar people, Tanagorians share a culture despite their numerous tribes. They are populous, and they share a culture among the tribes, rather than being tribes whose only similarity is their origin. The history of the Tanagoro starts with Blackmoor, as when the huge kablooey hit, a good chunk of the fallout worked its way over to the surface Tanagorians, and then they started the standard get sick and die from radiation poisoning routine that was popular back in their day. The people are the chosen of Korotiko, and they follow his teachings exclusively. They're obsessed with personal perfection, and while they wear no armor in battle, they make up for it by making themselves beefy burritos of manhood before they're even eligible to be warriors. Women are expected to take care of the homesteads and raise children, but if one wants to prove herself, she will leave the tribe for a while. If she reaches 3rd level, she can return to her people and will be accepted as a warrior without question. If she doesn't reach 3rd level, she's dead and has proven everybody right about her not being qualified to be a warrior. Considering this is the Hollow World, not a lot of people make it to 3rd level anyways. The gentlefolk are the only demi-human in this video, as the dwarves are the medieval Swiss, the gnomes have skyships, and the halflings noped right off and stayed on the surface. Even the other elves are highly advanced, leaving these poor guys as the most primitive race in the Hollow World. They're also a sad story, as they're complete pacifists. They will not fight back at all. They've been beaten more times than the Washington Generals. The clan name is the Trueale Elves. They were the best buddies of the Hin back before it was the Five Shires. They also served as a buffer between the various hostile powers and the Hin. By buffer, I mean punching bag, at least until the attackers got bored fighting somebody who wouldn't punch back. These guys would make world eaters bored. They will not fight, resist, or even disagree with anyone. They have multiple patrons who have their hands full because every time somebody decides to conquer the gentlefolk, they do it without a fight. These guys get driven to the edge of extinction, and then they have to be restored somewhere else in the Hollow World, preferably without hostile neighbors, aggressive raiders, or predators. It's a vicious cycle. The history of the elves is tragic. They are the survivors of the Glantrian apocalypse, when one of their neighbors found a Blackmoor device and succumbed to the natural tendency of elves to push all the blinking lights. One mushroom cloud later, and the Trueale Elves found themselves living underground. When they emerged from the Holocaust centuries later, they received spiritual guidance because they needed to do penance for blowing up the world. Or at least they thought they did, because the one giving their advice was Thanatos. So they stopped fighting back, and it nearly drove them to extinction on multiple occasions. Now they can't change their culture because of the spell of preservation, and they're doomed to be like this forever. They now live in an isolated valley free of dinosaurs, with their only neighbors being the Brutemen, who hold them in almost religious awe. This is the safest they've been in a long time, but how long is that going to last? We now come to the greatest experiment in the Hollow World, the Beastmen. The ancestors of the humanoid races brought down to the Hollow World and cut off from the immortals that had created and corrupted them. These aren't the humanoids in the traditional sense. There are no orcs, goblins, or trolls, but instead they are the original mongrel race that shared numerous and random features that can be passed between parents, making children of any size and shape. Only now they haven't been promised glory and riches if they crush everyone else. Many of them still want to do that, but at least it's because of their own free will. This is the Hollow World, after all. The original Beastmen were all reincarnated evil creatures, and instructed by their patrons to go and do naughty things to people who weren't them. Over the years, the Beastmen interbred, forming the humanoid races that we are familiar with now. That's the reason that, unlike the humans and demi-humans, both humanoid parents pass on their traits to their children. Without their reincarnations as evil creatures, now the Beastmen have drifted back towards a neutral alignment. Yes, even here, humanoids don't do good alignments. They do slightly less annoying neutral. And now they are more concerned with surviving, breeding, and reminding their neighbors they like booting head. Their appearance is utterly random, of differing heights, shapes, and weights, and appearances that mean both children often don't resemble their parents at all. Looking like various animals is a common feature between Beastmen. They aren't hostile to their neighbors as long as the borders are enforced, but they will not shy away from blows if people insist. There are several other races found on the Hollow World that fall into the Stone Age or Bronze Age that don't get nations of their own. Instead, they're scattered throughout various regions, living in the small pockets. These are usually mentioned in some adventure in passing, as they act as their surface world equivalent. These include Garls, Sasquatches, Cyclopses, Troglodytes, and more than a few sylvan creatures. They're meant to be monster encounters rather than full-blown cultures, so use them in your adventure as you see fit. This wraps up the primitive cultures of the Hollow World. They aren't evenly represented, with some getting a few paragraphs and others a full page or two. Yeah, they've got continuity errors and a few don't make a lot of sense, but it showcases the setting's embracing of low-tech societies compared to the surface. If the party is comprised of surfacers, these guys aren't much of a threat on paper. But remember, other Hollow World cultures are at best in the Iron Age with few exceptions. The Tanagoro might not wear armor, but the next best for everybody else is usually leather. Next week we're headed to the Red Coast to talk about the first of the Savage Baronies, the rootinest, tootinest, gun-totinest nation in all of Mystara, the Barony of Cimarron. And you better believe I'm using my drawl for this one.